Hi, and welcome to TechCeuticals Tech Tips. Today we're going to talk about measuring tools and the importance of knowing what the working length of the punch is, the overall length, and the cup depth, and how to determine the difference between them and what we're looking for. Basically, we're going to be measuring the upper punches and the lower punches separately, and we're focusing on knowing that all of the set, the full set, say we have in our set 36 stations, that we want to know that all the complete set of punches of the uppers are within a certain range, and the lowers. The uppers and lowers don't have to match each other. So we start off here using a dial or a drop indicator. This is supplied by Natoli, and I usually use a overall measurement here. I can use a brand new punch because I know that this punch, I've measured it, is exactly 5 1/4 inches long, 5/250. We could use a drill block to verify that. The typical length of a new punch per TSM specifications from the cup edge to the head flat, that is if I measure it like this, or to the edge of the cup, right on to the very edge, should be 5/250, and you can see it zeroed out. Okay, so that's just the general length of the tool, called the overall length. Then the next dimension that I'm interested in is by turning the punch over and going and putting the indicator, the anvil, in the very center of the bottom of the cup. I can determine what the length of this punch is to the bottom of the cup. Now what I want to know is I want to know the variation from punch to punch to punch. So all I really want to do in this particular situation is I can zero my gauge out, and so I put that on 0, and then I take this punch away, grab another punch from my set over here, and this punch should be within plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch variation within the entire set. So I don't want any punches outside of a 0.002 variation, 0.002 thousandths variation through the whole set. That's to the bottom of the cup. Now the reason that dimension is so critical is because that controls weight from the lower punch, thickness from both the lower and the upper, and hardness from both the upper and lower punches. So working length is our critical dimension, and we check that every time we use these tools. That is, after any major cleaning or storage of the tools, any damage to the punch head flat, or any known wear, you would want to place the punches in and make sure the entire set of uppers are within 0.002 of each other, or the entire set of lowers. Here's a lower punch, that the entire set of lowers is within 0.002 of each other. So I can have older sets of tools or newer sets of tools that'll be offset a little bit. I just care about the variation between them. The other dimension that I measure for is when I zero this out at the bottom of the cup. Then if I turn this punch over, that tells me the cup depth. I can do that a couple of different ways. So basically what I'm trying to determine here is how deep the punch is from the edge to the bottom of the cup. So if I zero this out, this gauge out again, and then I turn the punch over, that will be measuring down into the center of the cup. You can see that this cup depth here is 35 thousandths cup depth, a shallow cup depth. So that way I can measure once I set that up, I can go to my next punch and I can check that same dimension, and this one's a little bit longer, a little bit deeper, 36 thousandths cup depth, but it's within my range. Again, my working length, the working length of a tool was from the head flat to the center of the cup and the variation within that set. The overall length is the dimension from the cup edge to the head flat, and I can have a variation there of 4 thousandths of an inch within the set. When I measure my cup depth, I'm basically checking the difference between the overall length and the bottom of the cup to get my dimension here, which is roughly, in this case, this particular punch is 34 thousandths. So I need to check, and that variation punch to punch is plus or minus 3 thousandths of an inch. So wrapping this up, when I receive a set of tools, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just check that they're roughly, that I'm going to know the dimension of this tool, measure that, and I can use a drill gauge or something that says that's 5/250. That's especially important on the lower punch because I always take my shortest lower punch and mark it, and I use that lower punch to set my ejection height on the machine. That's, again, the overall length. The other dimension that's just a nominal dimension is checking the cup depth, and in this case I'm at 35 thousandths roughly. Now the most important dimension is the working length, and that's the variation from punch to punch to punch. So if I have a set of lowers, so once I establish my deepest point, I can turn this or zero this out, and then I check, get my next punch, grab my next punch, put it back on here, and I want it to be very close to the last punch I checked, and I need that to be within plus or minus 1 thousandths of an inch. And then I get another punch, and I'll check that dimension, and there it is again. So if I have all of a sudden a punch that is much longer or much shorter, that could change the weight, the thickness, or the hardness of the tablet, and I wouldn't want any more variation than plus or minus 2 thousandths of an inch. And I check the working length from the head flat to the bottom of the cup on a regular basis. Alright, well that's it for Tech Tips today. If you have any questions, give us a call. Thanks very much. This is Mike Towsey with Tech Pvt Ltd. Thank you very much.